Get off the track and into the streets. Camden Sports Productions and Naira Awards are proud to present At the Post Live, Serling on Saratoga, a weekly behind-the-scenes discussion about the Saratoga horse racing season, hosted by nationally recognized racing expert and analyst Andy Serling. Tonight's show is also brought to you in part by Timeform US and Capital OTB. Now, live from the Parting Glass Pub in downtown Saratoga, here's Andy Serling.
Welcome to At the Post Live, here live at the Parting Glass in downtown Saratoga. I want to thank everybody for coming out to our pre-Travers Day show. A couple of things to discuss before we start. As you're probably aware, we're having a show, Nashville Comes to the Races, after this, and a $25 donation. You can stay for Nashville Comes to the Races, supporting a good cause, the Giving Circle. It also includes a raffle draw for a Travers box. You know when people say it's a Travers box, it's on the finish line, you get there, and it's like in Malta? This Travers box is actually about 10 feet after the finish line. I know it. And also a raffle for 4 Legend Suite tickets for Yankee Stadium as well. So additional raffle tickets can be purchased. It's $25, gets you a raffle, gets you in. You can get additional tickets for 20 for 1, 40 for 3, 50 for 4, et cetera, et cetera. You want to try to get that box. You want to stay. It's going to be a fun event as well. We're going to have some really good stuff going on here, and we've got good stuff here tonight. Eddie Olczyk is going to be joining us a little bit later. Probably familiar with Eddie Olczyk, hockey player, hockey announcer, as well as working for NBC Sports. They'll be covering the Travers this weekend. And perhaps we'll have other people joining us later. But right now, we've got a very good friend of mine joining us, the one and only Dale Romans. Dale, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you. It's always good to be on your show. It means you have something good going on in racing.
Yeah, well, you know, by the way, the best show we've done, hands down, in the 4 years was when Alan Jerkins came here, and I imagine some of you were lucky enough to be here. It was a great night. That night could not have happened if it wasn't for you, Dale, and so everybody here owes you a big thanks for that.
But let me tell you, racing owes a big thanks because it was a great night.
It was.
Now, let me tell the backstory on that. You called me and said, Alan and I were very close, if nobody out there knows it, and Andy called and said, can you get the chief to come on? He won't come. So I had to go talk him into coming. The chief is very regimented. He went to bed at the same time overnight, about 8 o'clock. I promised him I'd be home by 9:30. When I went to pick him up, he said, do we really want to go do this? And I said, the chief, you got to go. He gets in here, and all of you all were here, standing room only. And he was, believe me, he was taken back. He never realized how great he was, or how respected he was, or that he was the chief. He gets up here with Andy, 83 years old, hit it out of the park. Everything. It was the best show I've ever seen in horse racing.
It was a great night.
But he had made me demanded I have him home by 9:30. I pull the car up here to the door, take him out, put him right in the car. He looks at me, he says, you know, Jerry Bailey was on after me. He wrote a lot for me. We really should have probably stayed. That was rude. I said, you saw him this winter. It was a big loss for anybody who was a friend, who he was a mentor to. But a big loss to racing. It
was a big loss to racing, but he was such a gigantic gain for racing that, you know, a man who touched the lives of just thousands and thousands, endless numbers of people in horse racing.
One of the few people that I've ever seen that wanted to buoy everybody up. I never heard him say a bad word about a person. That helped everybody and was truly happy for anybody who had success.
Yeah, and a man who helped people wanting nothing in return, and nobody will ever know all the people whose lives he touched.
All the riders, he'd holler and scream about jockeys. Was everybody think I can help them? I should start them all, and then he'd name them on. One of our friends worked for him 25 years ago. He told me, he said, he fires us all every day, but none of us leave.
And they all stayed around to the end. A lot of them were still around the racetrack. Let's talk about you. How's your summer going?
You know, the summer at Saratoga's been a little different. Summer's been good at Ellis Park. If anybody watches Ellis Park. You know, the dynamic up here's changed a lot. The racing's changed, you know, to the 5/8 sprints, to the claiming condition races. It's a lot different than when I started up here. And September in Kentucky has gotten a lot stronger.
Kentucky Downs is special.
Kentucky Downs, $120,000 maiden races. Right. Churchill Downs running instead of Turfway Park. So the dynamic of us Kentuckians being here, we haven't had the impact that we used to have. And I think it's just the shifting sands in Kentucky and a different type of racing here. You can bring 2-year-olds, you can bring stake horses, but they're tough to win. And everything in between has been, you know, minor racing. It's not worth shipping up here for. But we all still come. You have to be here. I say it's like having a box store and you have a store in Manhattan. You're going to lose money in your Manhattan store, but you got to be there.
Yeah, you got to be in Saratoga. But, you know, you talk about the 2-year-olds, and you've obviously had some great success with 3-year-olds, and we'll talk about Keen Ice in a couple minutes. But What is your philosophy with 2-year-olds? Because so many people want to win in Saratoga with their 2-year-olds first time out. And is that really good for a horse in the long run?
Well, the statistic that I think is most telling is the last horse to win the Kentucky Derby, to break their maiden on the dirt at Saratoga, is Winning Colors in 1988. I think it's such a difficult thing to do. You're running against the best. And times have changed where people have shifted the way they think about race. They want to win first time out up here. Instead of just letting their horses develop, you run them 80% fit, they get better and better. I started leaving my best 2-year-olds at home a long time ago, and I've always said if they're good enough, nobody cares where they break their maiden. If they're not good enough, they can't win at Saratoga anyway.
Right.
So we've kind of left them behind. There's great 2-year-old racing here, great horses, but I feel like it didn't fit my program.
Well, I mean, there's so many different ways, obviously, to get to where you want to go. And I mean, you're somebody who, you as much as anyone in the game, and maybe this is something you learned from the chief, you're willing to take a shot, put yourself in a position where someone could say, oh, he embarrassed himself, but you've obviously won enough big races, sometimes with somewhat improbable horses, that no one can say Dale Romans doesn't belong in this race.
Well, you know, when I ran third in the Belmont with a maiden, the criticism ahead of time was major. He proved me right. Nolan Scott. He proved me right to be there. He ran third. Well, Ken Ramsey owned the sire, he owned the mare, he owned the brothers and sisters. And when the water rises, all the boats rise. It ended up being a major windfall. But you know what got me started thinking more like that was one day here, one of my first years ever being at Saratoga, the guy starts screaming off the balcony, go back to Ellis Park where you belong, you're burning up money. And I got red-faced and wanted to hunt him down, wanted to beat him to a pulp. I go in the race, I couldn't find him, luckily, he probably could have whipped him, but I went in the racing office, and I'm sitting there, next race, Wayne Lucas walks in, laughing. I said, what is so funny? He said, well, guy just started yelling at me, go back to quarter horses, you're burning up money. Go back where you belong. And I started looking at the two different ways that we looked at it, and it clicked. And then so he started telling me, he said, you got to judge yourself over 5-year increments. You'll go crazy, race by race, meet by meet. And as we're walking out, he said, I'm going to tell you something else. Don't let the press place your horses. I've made millions of dollars running where they said I didn't belong.
Well, you know, it's funny. I remember when you ran Little Mike in the Turf Classic at Belmont before he won the Breeders' Cup, the first, before he really done that much. And
the Joe Hirsch.
Joe Hirsch Turf Classic, right. And I remember a trainer who I know, smart guy, said to me, why is Dale running this horse's race? And I said, I don't know. He's crazy. He's crazy. And we were right, because the horse ran terribly. So then, a month later, he won the Breeders' Cup Turf. And I saw the trainer, and I said, you know, we laughed at Dale, and he ran last or fifth or whatever in the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic. We laughed at him, but you have to admit, you'd be the first one, and I would never have bet him in a million years, but you wouldn't have run him in the Breeders' Cup Turf, would you? He said, no, I wouldn't have, and Dale got the money.
That's a strange story. You know, I was going for the mile. I ran him in the Joe Hirsch, and it didn't work.
It was soft that day,
It was soft that day. And I was thinking, you know, he quit so early that it wasn't the distance. It had to be the turf condition, because he was doing too well going into the race. So it wasn't a mile and a half that cost him the race. He quit after 7/8 of a mile. And at least if it was a distance, he'd have made it to a mile. So in my mind, I'm thinking, and I was going to run in the mile in the Breeders' Cup, and I got to think, I can't beat Wisedan. We can't win that race. The night before entry, I decided I'm going to run him in a mile and a half. To throw out to Joe Hirsch, he just won the Arlington Million in a mile and a quarter. And then we enter, and we start handicapping, and I can't win it on the lead, like everybody thinks we're going to. There's too much pace in the race.
Sure.
So I told Ramon in the paddock, lay third, like you're on the lead. Just get into rhythm. Hopefully they stop in front of you. You inherit the lead at the 8th pole and ride that hair off of it. It might be the greatest race any jockey ever rode a horse.
Oh, I agree. One of the greatest riders of all time and one of the greatest races he ever rode. It's an amazing day. You know, and it's funny, I think Little Mike will be remembered by horse players as having knocked more horse players out of more pick 3s and pick 4s when he won that race, when he won the Arlington Million.
They said he couldn't
I never believed.
They said he couldn't go to mile 8th in the Woodford. They said he couldn't go a mile and a quarter in
the
Arlington Million, and he couldn't go a mile and a half in the Classic. He proved everybody wrong. He was a phenomenal horse. Let me tell you a quick story about Ramon. So I walk out of here, out of Saratoga 2 years ago. The first year they had all the great jockeys here. And he's like a kid in a candy store after he had retired. He said, I was just talking to Cinto, Georgie, and Angel, and Lafitte. He said, it's crazy when you listen to their stories. Do you realize you're every bit as good as every one of them you just talked to? He had no idea.
He was amazing.
But he stopped me. He said, you know, I think you're a little biased because we did something great together.
No, we weren't biased.
No,
here's the problem. You and I saw the other guys ride. He never really saw the other guys ride, and we did. And they were good, but they were as good as
anybody ever sat on the back of a horse.
An amazing rider, an amazing person as well. I mean,
as good as they get.
Right, really one of the true great guys in the game. An amazing combination of those two. I want to talk to you some more, Dale, but we're going to have to come into a break first. So stay with us as we come right back. At the Post Live is brought to you by Capital OTB. Watch, wager, and win with Capital OTB.